On a cold autumn night in 1881, deep in a one-room dugout half cut into a hillside on the edge of Death Valley, a prospector named Aaron Winters held a trembling match over a saucer. In that saucer was a mixture of sulfuric acid, alcohol, and a handful of dirty white crystals he had scraped from a salt flat that morning. He and his wife Rosie had spent years living on mesquite beans and lizards. They had nothing left but this one test. The match touched the mixture. The flame leapt up and burned bright, vivid green. Aaron turned to Rosie and shouted, "She burns green, Rosie! We're rich, by God!" What Aaron Winters confirmed in that hovel was the presence of a mineral called sodium tetraborate decahydrate. You know it by a simpler name, borax. Within 10 years, this mineral was running through American hospitals, mining camps, and the laundries of the nation's finest hotels. Within 60 years, it had largely disappeared from the average home. And the reason it disappeared has almost nothing to do with chemistry, and almost everything to do with one brutal fact about how the modern consumer economy actually works. Welcome to Oracle Prime. Today we follow this $4 mineral from a saucer in Death Valley to the back rooms of textile museums and luxury hotel laundries that quietly still rely on it. We expose, in plain economic terms, why a substance that beats most synthetic detergents on key performance metrics has been pushed to the bottom shelf for 2 generations. By the end, you'll know exactly how to use it and exactly when not to. Let's dive in. Section 1. What's actually at stake? Let's start with what's at stake, because the numbers are absurd. A 65-ounce box of 20 Mule Team Borax in the United States costs about $5. It will boost roughly 40 laundry loads. Added cost per load? Somewhere between 12 and 14 cents. Compare that to a typical name-brand liquid detergent. At premium pricing, you're looking at 30 to 40 cents per load. And that's before fabric softener, oxygen booster, and the in-wash scent beads that the marketing team has somehow convinced you that you need. An average American household runs roughly 300 loads of laundry per year. That single shift, borax as a booster plus a half dose of detergent, translates to $50 to $70 in savings every year for the rest of your life. Over a generation, you're looking at a small car. But cost is only half the story. The bigger story is performance, and the structural reason this mineral disappeared from your grandmother's vocabulary. Section 2. Death Valley and the 20 Mule Team. Borax wasn't always obscure. Long before Aaron Winters lit that match, the mineral was prized in the ancient world. Tibetan deposits were carried along trans-Asian trade routes as early as the 8th century, used by metallurgists as a flux to fuse gold and silver, and by physicians as a mild antiseptic. But the modern American story begins in Death Valley. Within months of Aaron Winters confirming his find, he sold the claim to a businessman named William T. Coleman for $20,000, a fortune at the time. Coleman established the Harmony Borax Works in 1882 and immediately ran into a logistics problem that should have killed the entire enterprise. The borax deposits sat in one of the most hostile environments on Earth. Summer temperatures over 130 degrees Fahrenheit. No rail lines, no roads, no water. The nearest railhead at Mojave was 165 miles away across open desert. The solution became one of the great icons of American industrial ingenuity. Coleman's team designed massive custom wagons, 16 feet long, 4 feet wide, with rear wheels 7 feet tall, paired in a hitch with a 1,200-gallon water tank trailing behind. To pull the configuration, they assembled a team of 18 mules, with 2 horses up front for steering. The slogan-friendly name was the 20 Mule Team, even though, strictly speaking, it was 18 mules and 2 horses. Loaded, the entire convoy weighed 36.5 tons. It stretched over 100 feet from lead mule to back wagon. Between 1883 and 1889, these teams hauled more than 20 million pounds of borax out of Death Valley, through scorching heat, across mountain passes, over loose sand and gravel, without losing a single animal or breaking a single wagon. After Coleman's business collapsed in 1888, his operations were acquired by Francis Marion Smith, who registered the 20 Mule Team Borax trademark in 1894. And here is where the real cultural lift happened. Smith didn't just want to sell an industrial chemical. He wanted a box of borax in every American kitchen. He capitalized on the mythology of the West, the mules, the desert, the grit. The Pacific Coast Borax Company sponsored a radio drama called Death Valley Days starting in 1930, which jumped to television in 1952. From 1964 to 1966, the show was hosted by an actor you may have heard of, Ronald Reagan, in his final on-screen role before running for governor of California. For roughly 70 years, borax was as embedded in American domestic life as flour or salt. Then it almost entirely disappeared. Why? Section 3. The chemistry most people never learn. To understand why this disappearance is strange, you have to understand what borax actually does in your washing machine, because it's not one thing, it's 3. First, borax raises water's pH to about 9.3, making the wash water mildly alkaline. This matters because nearly every common stain on your clothing, body oils, sweat, food residue, grease, is acidic. When you raise the pH, you trigger a process chemists call alkaline hydrolysis. The hydrogen bonds holding fat molecules to fabric fibers begin to break. The grease saponifies. In effect, borax creates a small amount of soap in real time, right in the wash water. No expensive enzyme additives required. Second, borax is a precipitating water softener. If you live in a region with hard water, and most of the United States does, your tap water is loaded with calcium and magnesium ions. These minerals react with conventional soap to form an insoluble film called soap scum. That scum traps dirt in your fabric, leaves towels stiff, and turns whites slowly gray. Borax binds to those minerals and pulls them out of the equation. A separate water softening additive in the laundry aisle often costs $15 a bottle and does exactly this one job. Borax does it as a built-in feature. Third, in hot water above roughly 60 degrees Celsius, that's 140 degrees Fahrenheit, borate ions slowly convert some of the surrounding water molecules into hydrogen peroxide. This is the same chemistry that powers oxygen bleach. Borax provides a mild oxidative cleaning action that brightens whites and breaks down organic pigments, the kind of action you'd otherwise be paying premium for in a separate oxygen booster product. And there's a fourth bonus that comes essentially for free. Borax's alkaline environment inhibits the growth of bacteria and most fungi. It's the reason this mineral has been used for over a century to deodorize laundry that's been left damp too long, and the reason textile preservation researchers still rely on it today. So we have a single mineral that softens water, raises wash pH, generates mild peroxide, and suppresses microbial growth, all for pennies per load. If it works this well, the obvious question is, why is it on the bottom shelf? The answer is one of the cleanest examples of pure incentive economics you will ever encounter in the consumer goods industry. Section 4. Why it disappeared. A patent story, not a conspiracy. Borax is a mineral. It has been in the ground for about 7 million years. Its chemical composition is fixed by physics. You cannot improve it. You cannot tweak the formula. You cannot file a patent on sodium tetraborate decahydrate. That single fact, the unpatentability of a natural mineral, is the entire story. In the 1950s, after wartime shortages of fats and oils had pushed chemists to develop non-soap alternatives, the petrochemical industry began producing synthetic surfactants, molecules like linear alkyl benzene sulfonate, derived from petroleum byproducts. These compounds had 3 commercial advantages over borax that had nothing to do with cleaning performance. 1. They could be patented. A specific formulation could be legally owned for 20 years. 2. They could be branded. A patented blend could become Tide or Persil or Cheer. 3. They generated recurring revenue. A bottle of liquid detergent runs out in 8 to 10 weeks. A box of borax can sit on a shelf for 30 years. Add up those 3 properties and you get something far more valuable to a corporation than effective cleaning. You get a moat. A defensible, repeatable, brandable, profit margin protecting moat. Now compare that to borax. Anyone can mine it. Anyone can package it. The only differentiator is brand recognition, which means whoever spends the most on advertising wins. And in 1955, the synthetic detergent industry started outspending the borax industry on advertising by an order of magnitude. Then by 2 orders of magnitude. They didn't have to suppress borax, hide it, or run smear campaigns. They just had to out-talk it. Year after year, decade after decade, on radio, in magazines, on television. By 1985, an entire generation of American consumers had grown up never seeing a borax commercial, and seeing thousands of detergent commercials. Borax didn't lose because it was inferior. It lost because the economic system rewards what can be owned. And a mineral sitting in California salt flats for 7 million years cannot be owned by anyone. This is the part the title promised you the industry was hiding. The deeper truth is more interesting and harder to dismiss. Nobody hid anything. They just outshouted it for 60 years, and we forgot. That brings us to a fair question, one that defenders of modern detergents are entitled to ask. Section 5. Are modern detergents actually worse? Honest answer, not in every category. Modern detergents have real advances that borax cannot replicate, and any video that pretends otherwise is selling you a different kind of fairy tale. Enzymes are the biggest advance. Protease, amylase, and lipase are biological molecules engineered to break down proteins, starches, and fats specifically. On set-in protein stains like blood or grass, an enzymatic detergent will outperform borax alone. Borax raises pH. Enzymes literally chop the stain molecule into pieces. Different mechanism, real benefit. Surfactants are another. Borax is not a surfactant. It does not lift dirt particles into suspension the way detergent molecules do. That's why dirt rinses out instead of redepositing on your clothes. If you wash purely with borax in cold water, you'll find clothes come out cleaner than untreated, but not as clean as they would with a real surfactant in the mix. Cold water performance is a third advance. Many modern detergents are formulated specifically for cold cycles, which saves substantial household energy. Borax's peroxide reaction requires heat to fully activate, so this is not a story of one obviously superior product being suppressed by another. It's a more honest story. Borax is a remarkable booster, water softener, pH adjuster, and mild brightener, and its disappearance from common knowledge has cost households real money for 2 generations. The optimal modern setup is not borax versus detergent. It's borax with a half dose of detergent, using each tool for what it does best. That's not the answer the marketing department of either side wants you to hear, which is exactly why it's the right one. Section 6. Who still uses it, and why? Here's the strangest part of this whole story. While ordinary households were forgetting borax existed, the professionals whose entire careers depend on absolute textile precision never stopped using it. In textile conservation labs, the kind of facilities responsible for cleaning thousand-year-old silks without destroying them, researchers have published peer-reviewed work showing that polyvinyl alcohol borax composite gels are among the most effective tools available for removing soot and atmospheric pollutants from historical silk fabrics without damaging the underlying fibers. Modern detergents are far too aggressive for that kind of work. The chemistry that makes them effective on a t-shirt makes them destructive on a Ming Dynasty embroidery. In commercial linen services, the laundries that supply five-star hotels and high-end hospitals, there's a process called laundry stripping. Over months of repeated washing, conventional detergents and fabric softeners leave a microscopic residue on towels and sheets, a film of wax, mineral buildup, and surfactant residue. This film traps odors, dramatically reduces absorbency, and is the actual reason a hotel towel feels different from a year-old home towel, even though they may have started identical. To restore the fabric, professionals soak it in a hot bath of borax, washing soda, and a small amount of powdered detergent for several hours. The water that comes out is gray, sometimes brown, carrying the accumulated residue of months of normal washing. You can run this exact experiment yourself with your own bath towels, and the result is genuinely shocking the first time you see it. The continued professional use of borax is the strongest possible evidence that it actually works. The people whose entire profession is keeping fabric flawless and absorbent are not paying premium for synthetic detergents alone. They're using them in combination with the same mineral Aaron Winters scraped off a Death Valley salt flat in 1881. Section 7. How to actually use it. 3 methods in order of how often you'll reach for them. Method 1. The everyday booster. To any normal load of laundry, add half a cup of borax directly to the drum. Then add half your usual dose of detergent. The borax softens the water, raises the pH, and stretches the cleaning power of whatever detergent you're using. You'll use roughly half as much detergent for the same or better result. This single change is the biggest cost per load saving you can make in your laundry routine. Method 2. The deep stain pre-treat. For protein-heavy stains like blood, sweat rings, dairy, or food spills, dissolve 2 tablespoons of borax in 2 cups of warm water and apply directly to the stain. Let it sit for 30 minutes before washing. The alkaline solution begins breaking the bond between stain and fiber before the wash cycle even starts. Method 3. The laundry strip. Take dingy towels, sheets, or athletic gear that just doesn't seem to come fully clean anymore. Fill a bathtub with hot water. Add a 1/4 cup of borax, a 1/4 cup of washing soda, and half a cup of powdered detergent. Submerge the laundry, stir occasionally, and let it soak 4 to 5 hours. Then run a water-only rinse cycle in the machine afterward. Brace yourself for the color of the water that comes out the first time. Section 8. Honest warnings. Now the warnings, and these matter because borax is powerful enough to cause real damage if used wrong. Never use borax on protein-based fibers. That means wool, silk, and cashmere. The same alkaline pH that lifts grease from cotton will hydrolyze the protein bonds in animal-derived fibers and weaken the fabric permanently. Borax also degrades spandex and elastane over time, which means keep it away from athletic wear with significant stretch. Borax is a natural mineral, but natural is not the same as edible. Keep it sealed and out of reach of children and pets. Ingestion can cause serious gastrointestinal toxicity, and the EPA has flagged concerns about reproductive effects from chronic high exposure. Treat it with the same respect you'd give any concentrated cleaning agent. Wear gloves if you have sensitive skin. And one final honest limitation. Borax does not replace detergent in every situation. Cold water-only cycles, technical synthetic fabrics, and certain enzymatic cleaning tasks really do benefit from modern formulations. Borax is the best laundry booster on the planet at its price point. It is not a complete one-product solution. Anyone selling you that idea is selling you the same kind of overclaim that put the average household in this position in the first place. Conclusion. Bookkeeper to Aaron Winters. Let's come to Act Aaron Winters. Within 6 years of selling his Death Valley claim, he was bankrupt. Owing back taxes on a small ranch outside Pahrump, Nevada, he lost almost everything he had bought with that $20,000. He died a few years later, having spent his final months as a hermit in the mountains of southern Nevada. He didn't lose because what he found wasn't valuable. He lost because the value of what he found was extracted by the people who could afford the wagons, the mules, the railroads, the refineries, and eventually, the marketing budgets. That same mineral he confirmed in a saucer in 1881, sodium tetraborate decahydrate, is sitting on a low shelf in your local supermarket right now, in a yellow box with a picture of a mule team on it. It costs about $5. It will outlast almost everything else in your laundry room. You don't need to mine it. You don't need to haul it 165 miles across a desert. You don't need to wait for a corporation to remember to advertise it. You just need to know it exists. That's the entire trick. A surprising amount of what we are sold every week is sold to us because someone owns the formula and stands to profit from your forgetting that simpler, older, cheaper alternatives ever worked. Whenever you find one of those alternatives, borax in the laundry room, vinegar in the kitchen, baking soda in the bathroom, an old kettle instead of a single-use pod, you're recovering a small piece of household sovereignty that nobody can sell back to you. That's why this channel exists. If this video gave you that piece of sovereignty back, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. Drop a comment below telling me what other recurring purchase in your home you suspect has a forgotten mineral or method behind it. The best ones become the next videos on this channel. This is Oracle Prime. Question everything you're sold. Reclaim what you've been taught to forget. I'll see you in the next one.